I walked into my brother Ethan's engagement party holding a small wrapped gift, trying to stay invisible. Before I could even find my seat, Lila's mother looked straight at me and told the coordinator, "Put her at the children's table. She doesn't fit with the adults." A few people laughed like it was a joke, but no one defended me. I stood there with heat rising in my face, wondering why my own family never saw me as more than a weak extra in their perfect moments. I didn't know the truth behind that night would flip everything, and when the host called my name across the hall, the entire room went silent. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. The engagement party was held at one of the nicest venues in the city. Chandeliers, velvet chairs, tall flower stands, everything polished and expensive, the kind of place where you instantly feel judged the second you walk through the door. I walked in alone because no one cared enough to ask if I needed a ride. My parents rushed past me to greet Ethan and Lila, acting as if I was a stranger who accidentally wandered into their celebration. I stood near the entrance for a moment, trying to breathe and remind myself that I could handle an evening with people who never liked me. When I finally approached the seating chart, I searched for my name among the rows of elegant dinner tables filled with adults in fancy clothes. I didn't see it anywhere. The coordinator stepped beside me, pointed to a far corner, and said, "You're over there." I looked and saw a small round table with cartoon plates, crayons, booster seats, and tiny plastic cups. A table meant for children. I thought it was a mistake until I heard Lila's mother whisper loudly, "She'll be more comfortable there." A few guests smiled at each other. No one stopped it. Not even Ethan. He looked down at his shoes like he was embarrassed of me. My parents didn't make eye contact. My mother just said, "Sit wherever they put you and don't make a fuss." It felt like being 12 again, scolded for something I didn't do. I tried to ignore the sting and sat down at the kids' table. A toddler asked if I wanted a coloring sheet. A bridesmaid walked by, laughed under her breath, and said, "At least she finally fits in somewhere." My heart sank, but I kept quiet because that's what I was trained to do. While I sat in the corner, counting down until I could leave, I watched my family enjoying themselves, laughing, hugging, clinking glasses. They looked complete without me, like I was a background character they reluctantly invited. I reached for my water and tried to ignore the burning in my chest. I thought about how hard I had worked the past 2 years. 2 jobs, online classes, rare nights off. No one in that room knew about my goals or the quiet project that had taken every extra dollar an hour I had. No one ever asked. Then I overheard Lila telling one of her bridesmaids that I should learn how to behave around real adults. The bridesmaid laughed and said, "At least the kids' table matches her level." My cheeks burned. I tried to swallow the embarrassment, but it hit harder than I expected. Something inside me tightened. I felt tired of being the family punching bag, tired of being treated like an outsider, tired of letting everyone decide who I was. I picked up my small gift and stood up. I didn't know where I was planning to go, but I knew I wasn't sitting there another minute. And that was the moment the host stepped onto the stage, lifted the microphone, and called one name, my name. Everything stopped. People turned in their seats. The laughter froze. Even Lila's mother stared at me with confusion. I had no idea why he wanted me, and neither did they. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. The moment the host called my name, every sound in the room seemed to drop away. I stood there holding my gift like it was the only thing keeping me balanced, and for a few seconds I wondered if I had misheard him. People around me turned in their chairs, giving me long, confused stares as if I had interrupted something important. My mother looked irritated, like I was making trouble by simply being acknowledged. Lila's mother whispered something into her ear, and they both looked at me with the same tired expression adults give a child who is about to embarrass the family. I took a slow breath and walked forward, because standing still felt worse. The carpet under my shoes was so thick and soft, it reminded me I did not belong somewhere this expensive. I kept my eyes straight, trying not to show how nervous I felt. I reached the host and quietly asked why he needed me, and he smiled in a way that only made my stomach twist more. He said someone from the venue needed to speak with me privately and would be coming out in a moment. The confusion in the room grew heavier. I could hear small conversations breaking out behind me. Why is she being called? Does she work here? Did she do something wrong? Leela's bridesmaids giggled like the whole thing was entertainment. While I waited, I overheard my parents talking behind me. My father said in a low voice that he hoped I hadn't done anything to ruin this day. My mother whispered that it was probably a misunderstanding and that the staff often mix up names with people who look like they don't belong. That last part stung more than the kids' table. Even now, even in front of a crowd, they found ways to remind me of how little they thought of me. The memory of them praising Ethan's achievements all night, while ignoring that I was juggling 2 jobs and still managing to study, rose inside me and made my throat tighten. I wanted to walk out, but I stayed because I needed to know why I was being called. A coordinator came out from the back of the room holding a clipboard and motioned for me to step toward her. Her voice was polite but firm when she asked if I was Maya Carter. I nodded, and she looked relieved, which only made the tension rise. She explained to the host that she had been trying to reach me all week to confirm a detail about my account. Account. The word felt strange. I assumed she meant I owed something, or that there had been a mistake with my entry. Before I could ask anything, she turned slightly to face the audience and apologized for the interruption, saying this matter was related to the venue itself. All eyes were on me now, including Ethan, who looked like he wanted to disappear. His fiancée looked annoyed that attention had shifted from her. I asked what account she was talking about. She flipped through her papers and said it clearly. Your investor account with our venue. The room went still. My mind went blank. I heard a few gasps behind me. My mother muttered that there must be another Maya Carter. Lila's mother said there was no way someone like me could invest in anything. The coordinator ignored their comments and continued explaining that part of the partnership agreement required the venue to publicly acknowledge any investor in attendance at major events. That was why the host announced my name. For a moment, I could not speak. I had forgotten all about that investment. Almost a year ago, during a late-night scroll through business programs, I found a small opportunity to invest in the venue's development plan. It wasn't expensive at the time, but it was a big risk for me. I had saved tips from my jobs, skipped outings with friends, and worked extra hours to put money into something that felt like a chance at a better future. I kept it private because no one in my family ever took my goals seriously. They would have laughed or warned me not to waste money. Standing there now, I felt a strange mix of vulnerability and pride. I wanted to explain myself, but the coordinator kept going. She said they needed my signature on an approval update, and that the event tonight fell under the partnership tier I contributed to. Hearing that made the room shift. Guests who had laughed earlier now stared with curiosity. Ethan's expression changed from embarrassment to shock. My father's face was tight, and my mother looked like she had swallowed something bitter. Lila crossed her arms, glaring at the coordinator as if she had personally offended her. As I listened, I realized the disrespect I had accepted all night was based on their picture of me, a picture that had not been true for a long time. They never cared enough to ask about my life or my work, so they believed I was still the weak, directionless girl they remembered. The kids' table, the whispers, the jokes, the looks of pity, everything had been based on their assumptions. And now these assumptions were breaking apart in front of everyone. I felt something in me shift. It wasn't anger or revenge. It was clarity. For the first time, I didn't feel small around them. I felt seen, even if it was by strangers. And the people who once dismissed me suddenly had no idea who I really was. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. As the coordinator guided me toward the center of the hall, I felt every gaze burning into my back. But for once, it didn't make me shrink. It made me stand taller. She handed me a folder and asked me to confirm my information. I held the papers carefully, my hand steady, even though my heart was beating hard. The room was quiet enough to hear the soft music playing in the background. When I opened the folder, I saw the investor agreement with my name printed clearly across the top. It felt strange, seeing my own name on something official in a room full of people who believed I had accomplished nothing. Before I could process it, the coordinator stepped forward again and explained to the guests that their venue honored investor partnerships during large gatherings by acknowledging them publicly. She said my name had been displayed on their corporate screen during the event setup, but it had been missed because the family insisted on removing anything that might distract from the celebration. The guests murmured. My mother froze. Lila's mother looked irritated, as if someone had just ruined a carefully planned show. The coordinator then asked me to sign a document authorizing tonight's upgrades. I stared at the page, confused. Upgrades? She explained calmly that certain features of the event, such as the premium lighting, the dessert service, and the elevated decor, had been included under my investment tier. My parents exchanged nervous looks. Lila grabbed Ethan's arm and whispered something, clearly unhappy that a part of her perfect engagement party was tied to me. The coordinator added that the family had been billed incorrectly for some items because the venue did not know an investor would be present. Now that I was here, those charges would be adjusted. The implication hung in the air. Part of this extravagant engagement party was running on my contribution, not theirs. People around me began whispering again, but now the tone was different. Instead of amused or dismissive, they sounded curious and surprised. I looked at Ethan, hoping for some sign of support or at least a smile of pride, but he looked embarrassed. He stepped toward me and whispered that I should have told him about this sooner. His voice was tight, almost accusing. Instead of feeling guilty, I felt something loosen inside me. I finally said what I had never dared to say before. You never asked. His face fell. For the first time in years, he had no quick defense. My mother approached next with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. She said she wished I had shared this news because it would have avoided confusion. Her tone suggested that I had caused inconvenience rather than contributed something meaningful. I looked at her and realized the truth. No matter what I accomplished, she would always see me as a child who needed guidance and correction. She didn't care about understanding me. She cared about controlling the narrative. Lila's mother stepped in next with a cold politeness that made my skin crawl. She asked the coordinator if there was any way to remove my involvement from the event to keep things simple and clean. The coordinator shook her head and explained that investor recognition was a contractual requirement. Lila's mother's lips tightened, as if the taste of the words offended her. Lila herself looked angry, twisting her engagement ring nervously. She said she didn't want her special night overshadowed by irrelevant distractions. That was the moment something sharp inside me finally snapped. Irrelevant. That was how they saw me. A background extra, a small mistake in the picture, someone who didn't matter unless she caused trouble. I had spent years trying to earn a place among them, years proving my worth in ways they never bothered to notice. And now that I had done something real, something significant, they still wanted to push me aside. The coordinator, sensing the tension, asked if I wanted to say a few words or step aside for a moment. Her kindness felt like fresh air in a suffocating room. I handed back the folder and told her I needed a moment to think. She nodded and stepped away, leaving me standing at the front of the room with dozens of eyes still locked on me. I looked out at the hall, at my family who never believed in me, and finally understood something important. The version of me they wanted no longer existed. I wasn't the insecure girl who accepted whatever seat they gave me. I wasn't the silent sister who swallowed her hurt. I wasn't the daughter who begged for approval. I was here because I had built something on my own without their help, and no one could take that away from me. A calm strength spread through my chest. Whatever came next, I wasn't walking back to the kids' table. Not tonight. Not ever again. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. As I stood there trying to process everything, the host gently tapped the microphone and asked the room for attention. He explained that the venue wished to formally acknowledge all contributors who played a role in making the event possible. The lights shifted slightly, drawing every eye to the stage. I felt a wave of nerves wash over me as the coordinator approached the host with a small glass plaque. She motioned for me to come forward. My legs felt heavy, but I walked because something inside me refused to shrink again. The host announced my name clearly, stating that I was an active investor whose contributions supported events just like this one. He added that the engagement tonight received complimentary enhancements because of my membership tier. A hush fell over the room. People turned to each other in disbelief, whispering, trying to connect what they knew of me with what they were hearing. Even the server standing near the dessert table paused mid-step. Lila's mother stepped forward in a panic, attempting to speak, but the host continued without giving her the chance. He thanked me for supporting the growth of the venue and improving community events. Applause broke out, hesitant at first, then fuller as guests realized this was not optional courtesy, but genuine recognition. My parents clapped weakly, their eyes darting around the room as if trying to gauge how embarrassed they should feel. Ethan's hands barely touched together as he clapped, looking sick with confusion. Lila did not clap at all. She stared at the stage with a tight smile that strained at the edges, a smile that reminded me of someone watching their perfect mural crack down the middle. When the applause settled, the coordinator invited me to say a few words if I wanted. I never imagined speaking in front of a room filled with people who spent years seeing me as a joke, but something in me rose to the surface. I stepped to the microphone and thanked the venue for acknowledging their partners. I said it calmly, my voice surprisingly steady. Then I added that this investment meant a lot to me because I had worked hard for it, often without support from anyone in the room. A murmur spread through the hall. I kept going, not with anger, but with clarity. I said that sometimes the people who know us the longest believe they know everything about us, when in reality, they only know the version of us they expect to see. The host nodded politely, but several guests watched me with wide eyes, sensing my words carried a weight far heavier than a simple thank you speech. Before I could step back, Lila stormed toward the stage, grabbing Ethan by the arm and dragging him with her. She forced a smile for the crowd and loudly declared that this recognition was beautiful, but not suitable for the mood of the night. Her voice had a brittle sweetness to it. Then she looked at me and asked if I could keep this low, so her engagement wouldn't be overshadowed. Her tone cut through any remaining nerves in me. It wasn't a request. It was a command wrapped in fake politeness. She wanted me silent again. Ethan nodded along with her, clearly uncomfortable but loyal to her image. My mother stepped closer and whispered that I should be graceful and step aside, because tonight is not about you. Those 7 words pierced deeper than the kids' table, deeper than the whispers, deeper than every quiet insult over the years. Tonight was not about me. It was never about me. But they refused to understand one thing. I had not asked to be recognized. I had not sought attention. I had not tried to take anything from them. The venue had acknowledged me because I earned it. Their discomfort was not my responsibility. The coordinator, sensing the tension, informed everyone that the announcement was a contractual requirement and that the venue was simply fulfilling policy. Lila's mother glared at her, then glared at me, as if I had personally designed the contract to ruin her evening. A wave of guilt tried to creep back into my chest, but I took a deep breath and pushed it away. I had spent too many years letting guilt guide my actions. Not tonight. I placed the plaque under my arm and stepped down from the stage, planning to leave the event altogether. I felt lighter as I moved through the crowd, no longer shrinking, no longer apologizing for existing. But just as I reached for my coat near the exit, the coordinator rushed after me, holding another envelope. She said the venue had discovered an error while reviewing the family's billing and wanted to correct it immediately. I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to hear anything more. She opened the envelope and pointed to a line on the page. My family had been charged thousands of dollars for services that should have been covered entirely under my partnership benefits. The venue would be issuing them a refund, a large refund. I looked across the hall and saw my parents staring at the coordinator with confused expressions. Lila looked furious. Ethan looked lost. This time, the power shift was not symbolic. It was real, written in numbers and signatures. The night had changed, and everyone could feel it, whether they admitted it or not. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. As I stood near the entrance with the envelope still in my hand, I watched the coordinator walk back toward my family to explain the refund situation. My mother's eyebrows drew together in a tight frown as she scanned the paper, and my father leaned in closer as if he could somehow change the numbers by staring hard enough. Lila's mother pressed a hand to her chest dramatically, whispering something about how unfair it all was, while Lila glared at the paper like it was a personal insult created just to ruin her evening. I felt a strange calm settle in my body as I realized they were finally seeing something that I had known for a long time. Their opinions no longer shaped my reality. Their assessments no longer defined me. For years, I had allowed their words to shrink me, to limit how I viewed myself, to make me believe I was the weak one. But standing here now, watching them scramble to understand what had happened, I saw clearly that the smallness they kept trying to put on me was never mine to carry. It belonged to them, to their pride, their assumptions, their unwillingness to see me grow beyond the picture they painted of me. I let the moment sink in, letting the weight of my own strength fill the spaces where their doubt once lived. They approached me slowly, each wearing a different version of forced calm. My mother stepped forward first with the familiar smile she used whenever she wanted to hide her discomfort. She thanked me for helping with the event, as if I had simply loaned them a spare set of dishes rather than contributing something substantial. I nodded politely, but did not offer comfort. My father muttered something about wishing I had told them earlier so they could have planned differently, as if planning differently meant placing me somewhere other than the children's table. Lila followed next, her pretty smile stretched thin like plastic, trying not to tear. She said she hoped I understood that the evening had been stressful and that people sometimes say things they don't mean. I remembered her voice from earlier in the night, the one that called me immature and irrelevant, and I knew she had meant every word. I did not respond right away, and she shifted uncomfortably, waiting for me to reassure her, to soften the tension, to make her feel forgiven. Instead, I told her calmly that I understood perfectly, because people often reveal themselves when they think no one is paying attention. Her smile twitched, then fell completely. Ethan was the last to approach. He looked nothing like the confident older brother I grew up admiring. His shoulders were tense, and his eyes were full of regret. He apologized quietly for not defending me, for letting Lila's mother treat me the way she did, for not noticing how hurt I felt sitting alone at the children's table. His voice cracked slightly when he said he didn't realize how much I had changed. For a moment, I felt a familiar pull in my chest, the part of me that used to accept the smallest scraps of kindness because I never expected more. But something had shifted inside me tonight. I appreciated his apology, but I also understood that my self-worth couldn't depend on whether or not he recognized it. I told him I hoped he would learn to see people without waiting for someone else to tell him who they are. He nodded, swallowing hard, knowing I was right. When I finally stepped outside, the cold air met my skin and brought a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years. The frost on the pavement shimmered under the streetlights, and the quiet night felt more honest than anything inside that glittering venue. I walked toward my car with steady steps, feeling taller than I had when I arrived. Tonight had shown me something important. I had been growing silently, building a life piece by piece without applause, without validation, without recognition. And although it hurt to face the people who never believed in me, it also freed me. Their opinions no longer held power over me. Their laughter no longer defined my value. I had supported myself through long nights, small victories, and private struggles that no one in that room knew about. And now that a piece of my work had surfaced publicly, they couldn't ignore it anymore. As I started the engine, I looked back at the venue one last time. I didn't feel anger or bitterness. I felt relief. I was done shrinking for people who refused to see me. I was done accepting scraps of respect. I was done sitting at tables that were never meant for me. If they wanted to keep me in the corner, then it was time to build a life so bright they couldn't hide me even if they tried. I drove away with a quiet confidence that wrapped itself around me like a new beginning. The girl who walked into that party was not the same one driving home, and I knew that from this point forward, I would never let anyone decide my worth again. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from.